Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's Sherika Brown, of course. We're on another episode of Sherika Be Talking, cause I be talking. Just a heads up, getting a little construction done right now. So if you hear beating or drilling, please forgive me and just hang in there with me. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about I ain't had no choice, I was forced. It's not really the topic, but it's the reoccurring theme that I'm seeing this week. Earlier this week, when I went to work out, I decided we're gonna eat Five Guys for dinner. So the closest Five Guys next to me or to my gym was so happened in a plaza. And in this plaza, you had a Five Guys in walking distance, you had a Starbucks, Orange Theory Fitness, you had a local Japanese spot, a Mexican restaurant, a dog daycare, a chiropractor. It was just a lot of convenient spots. And right above these establishments were housing. And I was like, wow, man, like these kids get off the bus. Their bus stop is in front of Five Guys. Like we never had nothing like that growing up. Growing up in black neighborhoods, the most you had for convenience were corner stores that you could walk to and get bad food like snacks and, stuff like that. And I was like, we never just could get off the bus and say, oh, I'm going to ask my mom for Five Guys for after school. I was like, that's crazy. They could be snowed in for the ice storm, but they literally had 2 minutes below them a convenience, but it was like a grocery store next to the Five Guys and stuff. It was just like a world of convenience. And I'm like, with socioeconomics and everything, just in America, you notice that those type of places or establishments are placed in certain neighborhoods. They're typically not predominantly black, even when you live in like what I live in currently, a predominantly black, thriving, middle, upper class neighborhood. We still have to drive a good 20 minutes to get to a good restaurant, and we still have to drive nearly 35 minutes to get fine dining, which is ridiculous for the, caliber of people that live over here. But that's the reality of America. So we had a debate basically while like the following day, we had a debate in our like workout session. We had somebody that mentioned like, oh, I want to go to Europe or something. I need to go to Europe because they're healthier. And then I was like, in what sense? Like, are you saying because you want to do high rocks or because you're trying to do the shred athletic stuff? Like, because you're wanting to do like white people like type workouts, or what is it like? And he was like, no, like because they are just better athletes. And then I was like, if I'm not mistaken, the NFL, NBA, most sports are dominated by black people. So what do you mean they're the better athletes? Like what athletic department are we in? Are we talking about? And then he was like, no, well, they're healthier. And I was like, healthier in what sense? And he was like, the way they eat, everything is a choice. And then I was like, well, I mean, in Europe, they aren't putting all of the ingredients for mass production in their food like they do in America. And he was like, well, it's a choice. It's a choice. With everything you eat here, it's a choice. And I was like, everything is a choice, but we don't choose what's imported into our country. And he was like, well, people go to little stores like Food Depot to get their food and all this and that. I said, and what I'm trying to get you to understand is whether they go to Food Depot or if they go to Publix, we still have the same type of flour that's imported into America that they don't use in Europe, which is much healthier, because I have someone that I know of that says they actually get their flour after studying abroad imported from Europe because it's supposed to be healthier. And then he was like, well, it's a choice. I said, okay, so do you choose to get your flour and everything imported from Europe? And if you want to go that far, do you farm your own food and fruits and vegetables? Because you can, like, if everything is a choice. And he was like, no, but I'm saying people choose to eat bad stuff. And I was like, no, some people don't have a choice. They were forced. I have family in the hood that cannot even afford to go to Publix. So they have to go to a local Food Depot or a local Giant Food or some, raggedy ran down grocery store that you never heard of because it's only in that particular community. So you can't, I was telling him, you basically sound like a stick in the butt, what we call a stick in the butt, like black man from the suburbs that is out of touch with reality, because you're making it seem like people have a choice when they don't, especially being black in America. And what I was saying is, I'm like, because I'm real with people that I'm close to, and I'm like, you're half Black American because your dad is Black American, but your mom is Caribbean. She's from an island. And I was like, some of your thought process could come from not being fully aware of, Black in America. And then he was like, well, I'm not making it about race. I said, but you said Americans are less healthier. We can take race out of it and just speak about America. What I said, our imports aren't like theirs. Like, they don't even allow some of the foods that we consume here in America in Europe or in other countries. So I even, when I go to Mexico, sometimes they don't even have like some of the snacks that I like. Like, I can't find certain snacks that are particular snacks I eat here in America. They don't sell them there. Certain ingredients, when I was cooking in Mexico, they don't have it there. And we cannot control, what I was saying, what's in our grocery store, what's available for us to even cook. Even if we say, I'll never in life eat another fast food restaurant, we still cannot control what's in our grocery stores. Yeah, we can choose what we shop and what we get out the grocery stores, but they say even the chicken that they put organic on is not organic. I was like, we're not talking about the same thing, because even if you're saying that what we choose to buy is a choice, yeah, people can start farming and raising our own stuff, but that costs money. Financially, Black people aren't there where they can, as a whole decide, like, let's buy land and let's farm all our food. And even if we do have the finances to do it, we don't have the time, because you have to work so much in America just to provide a living for yourself, your family, and your kids. That's what I was just talking about. That's why y'all gotta watch all of my videos, because I was just talking about the privilege of being in the middle ground, not being too rich or too poor, where I know people from both sides of the spectrum, so I have a clearer eye view of everything. And I'm just understanding of seeing things from different perspectives. And he was just like, yeah, we got to have more conversations like that because it keeps our mind sharp or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, because you can't just say people have a choice. A choice is me choosing water instead of a Pepsi. A choice is, those are things that are at my fingertips and it's accessible. But a choice is not the air that I breathe in America versus breathing the air in Europe. Like, it's different because of our environment, and we can't choose that. It's what's here at our fingertips. We're forced to live here in a sense because some people can't even afford to get up out of here. Some people have never even traveled the world to compare American food to European food, so they don't know what they're eating is worse than somewhere else in the world. Like, knowledge is everything, and some people lack the resources to get the proper education to even know more. So when it comes to being Black in America, I'm very passionate about that. And everything stems and can go back to slavery. And people always say, oh, when Black people gonna let that go? I agree that we have to overcome it, and that we can't let it hold us back and just scream and, make it a song like, oh, it's because of this, that, and that. But no, everything is because of slavery. Every single thing. Even the fact that Black people fry our chicken very hard is because during slavery times, Black people were given spoiled meat and meat that was needed to be thrown out. So our ancestors had to overcook it to make sure it was well done so that we wouldn't continuously get sick. Even steak and stuff. It ain't until you reach another income level that you start saying, okay, I'll get it medium. We don't really go that much medium rare and rare. Some Black people do. But you'll get your steak a little pink when you like, okay, it's safe. Most Black people will order their steak well done because it all goes back to slavery. People don't understand that, and people don't get it. When I'm around, I ain't gonna let that type of talk fly. I don't care who you is. We gonna talk about it. We gonna make it a conversation. Let's talk about it. Because no, there are lazy people in every race. However, a lot of Black people lack resources, and we don't work as a community, and that's our biggest problem. We don't help each other when other races help each other, and they have way more resources than we do. I've known people who work for doctors, and they will see the doctor that they work for in there actually doing their people of other races, non-black people, actually writing out their children dissertations and, medical school, like doing their children work for them and sending it off to their children. We get everything out the mud. When I was at the University of Georgia and I would be in my classes taking my test, and other races of people are leaving out early because their sororities and their friends have passed the answer key down for generations, but I had to stay up studying all night in order to earn my fair grade because I didn't have family members that attended that university before me, and I was the first person in my family to attend that university. I had to make it work for myself. Nobody was in there to give me a handout. Okay? So it gets very deep. Now, my best friend, we always like to, talk about situations and everything. Right now, I'm not on social media like that. I'm not on Instagram at all. So she sent me a screenshot this morning while I was working, and I was responding to her. I'm gonna pull it up just so I could try to read it. We had some voice memos in here too. I should have asked her if I could use her voice on here, because maybe I'll play one of them. I'm not gonna tell y'all a whole conversation, but she sent me a screenshot of her talking to a girl on Instagram. A screen recording actually is what she sent me. And she asked me, what do you think? So the girl reposted a post that says, adults struggling with no kids is weird, with laughing emojis. And it said, the F you out here doing? And she was like, what you think? Her response to the girl was, I disagree. Have you seen the job market? It's bad out here. I thank God for having multiple incomes, because depending on one would have one in fact struggling, whether you have kids or not. And then the girl said, that's more so the angle I'm taking here. Without a kid, I would have so much more time to have side hustles and pick up extra gigs, etc. Faceless marketing, AI governance, and consulting are booming. I think most people are uncomfortable with change, so they get stuck in certain professions instead of pivoting. I definitely get it's hard out here. I've been at my current job for years, but I had 2 jobs last year and left one due to my time being tied to being a mother. Like, she the first to do that. Anyway, so then my best friend responded and said, yes, but you also have to understand society wasn't made for our people to succeed. Y'all see this, y'all who think, oh, y'all got such different personalities, what make y'all the same? We know that just be haters. We know y'all be waiting on us to not be friends no more. That's a side note, side little ass. But she said, yes, but you also have to understand society wasn't made for our people to succeed. The community I'm from, most people didn't finish college because they had to immediately start working, helping parents. So they lacked skills. Education, they lack picking up a trade. A lot are also ignorant because some people couldn't finish school, and if they did, barely got by because parents couldn't afford tutors, couldn't afford getting help with behavior specialists, or some had undiagnosed autism. I truly don't think most people are lazy. It's a lack of opportunity. Most entry-level roles want a bachelor's and still not paying livable wages. On top of that, they have to work 1,000 times harder than our white counterparts. The girl says, look, the same thing that I said happened with me in the gym. The girl say, I love conversations like these because I'm from a similar community. And my brother and I are like polar opposites. Even though we grew up in the same house, it's similar for my fiance. He's from Atlanta and has cousins who grew up in the same house as him and had a different outcome. And this is why I think sharing information and not gatekeeping in our community is so important. But to your point, some people are so behind, it's hard to catch them up. I can speak for my brother and say he's had the same opportunities I had, but chose a different route. And no matter how I try to help him, he's adamant on thinking he deserves something he didn't work for, or blames everyone else for being where he is in life. And he has no kids. I almost feel like it's a double-edged sword. Now, of course, these messages were sent between them two. I'm pretty sure I don't know this girl who she sent, and she don't know me, so we ain't saying no names. So this is just an example. This is not a breach of privacy or anything. But because of her example, I just responded. I said, I think both have points because there's y'all speaking from personal experiences with people you know. It's definitely not a one size fits all. Oftentimes, I feel like people with kids try to make comparisons because they regret the decision they've made. A part of being black comes with struggle. Our people have become too big head with materials that they forget we still don't have opportunities to be afforded the best, no matter how up we think we are. Our economy is terrible. I make more money working the way that I work, barely working. I make more money than some people that will work a full-time job. But I also would argue that I wouldn't go and procreate with someone who isn't capable of helping me financially. So she trying to argue something, but her argument in the post is sounded like to me it's rooted in being a single struggling mama, but she's mentioning having a fiance. What if I said people who make the comparison of like people who have kids and people who don't have kids is actually too broke to even be having sex? It's so many ways to look at topics like this, and it's all situational. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Everything is situational. My mama personally told me that having kids motivated her. So what if I said adults who have kids and are struggling are irresponsible, y'all selfish, and y'all lack common sense? Because why would you bring a child in this world and you knew you was broke? Everybody can literally view the situation differently. And I also told her, I said, and then people would have even considered people like me privileged when you have both of your parents, and you don't have to do nothing but pay for yourself. But I don't allow people, what people think about my situation to get into my head, because 10 times out of 10, they wish it was theirs. Some of us do have big dreams, and it doesn't include working 10 jobs. We are actually trying to find a way to make money work for us, and we will be the first in our families to do so. Struggle is something we will all face with or without children. But if a person is ambitious or have big dreams, I don't think they will ever consider a child as a hindrance, because essentially that's what the post is saying. But no one ever likes to talk about how sex is a choice that people try to act like is a necessity to breathe because it fulfills their flesh. Nobody ever want to talk about that. I kid you not. If you ever talk about abortion, you get it, I don't know if I can say it on YouTube. If you ever talk about that with your family or friends or stuff, and talk about your stance on it situationally, because that's a situational thing, notice how people always make excuses for why they gotta have it, the act, why they gotta do that act unprotected, or why it should be their choice that they should do it, but they can't ever make up in their mind that they don't actually need to do the act, or if they do the act, they don't need to be doing it with somebody that they can't depend on. You're gonna always have people make excuses for things that they want to do, even when they know it's not right morally. Just pay attention to that. I'm gonna play one of her voice memos just so y'all can hear what she said, because I can't see the words here.
I think my whole point was hard times happen to everyone, whether you have kids or no kids. And also, we as Black people, we're already heavily behind. Whether you had stuff coming up or you had tutors, you got an education or you didn't, because even those that are educated, we still fighting against our white counterparts to get the same opportunities that a white person can call their buddy or their friend and get their kid a six-figure paying job. But we have to work 10 times as hard, go through 20 interviews just to still get half of what they got, just because their parents knew somebody. Like, people saying, and I feel like she didn't really understand where I was coming from, in a sense where I was saying that we as a community, especially where we're from, like, we lack opportunity. A lot of kids that we went to school with, I'm sure if they had more opportunity, especially like our white counterparts, they would be farther in life. They went and got them a job to survive and to live, and probably still at those same jobs, not making much money. Like, it's not as easy as it seems. And everybody don't want to own a business and be a business owner or work multiple jobs. We should be able to work one job and be able to pay for everything in life. Like,
That part.
we shouldn't have to work 10 jobs.
Exactly.
And also,
But exactly, that's exactly what we were getting at. Like, only in America do people have to work 50,000 jobs to make a living for themselves. Our health, everything is declining, if we want to get specific, in this particular country, because we're overworked, underpaid, and everybody is basically just dying to live. Dying to live, just to live to die. Essentially, that's what's going on. It's no reason that people are working 3 and 4 full-time jobs and still barely making ends meet. And that is prominent in our community. And let's be real, a lot of these jobs that require bachelor's and master degrees and all of these promotions that they try to make requirements, degrees of requirements, is also to keep us back, because a lot of these jobs, it does not require a college level education. With the proper training, almost anybody can do the job if you have common sense, know how to read and write. But all of those things, this entire system is set up for us to fail. Yes, it's for us to overcome it in whatever way we can, because guess what? The oppressed cannot oppress the oppressor. Black people don't run this country. No matter how rich you think you is, as a black person, no matter how up you think you are, please do not let your little success get to your head, because at the end of the day, you still a black person in this world. And if you anything like me, I like the best of the best. I see how these white people are out here living. No matter how good I'm living, I know I could live better, and I know that they not giving us opportunities to the best. So yeah, we can try to do things about it, but we have so many crabs in our community that people don't even look out for each other. If you know that you got an opportunity that could help somebody around you, we have to start being resourceful to each other, because the system is already going against us. Why are we going against each other as well? In so many ways you can look at topics like this, but essentially what I got at, how we ended the conversation, I basically told my best friend that that's another thing black people need to come to terms with. Being like, you know what? You're right. I did not look at it from your perspective. Because how did you posting a post basically saying that if people don't have kids, they shouldn't be struggling, turn into us talking about your lazy brother? That's not what the post was about. The post just basically said, if you ain't got no kids, you shouldn't be struggling. Now you trying to make it seem like you give these little weird, unrelated examples to make your point, but your point is not the point, because that's not what the post was about. The post is very straightforward. You're going left field talking about your lazy brother that won't even go and get whatever low black job that Trump has out there for him. So we're on a whole different topic now. A lot of us can talk about lazy people that we know that aren't even trying, but that's not the topic of discussion. The discussion was you talking about that people shouldn't struggle. I know rich people that struggle, sweetie. Come down to earth. Like, y'all have to realize that everybody, job, J-O-B, job means just over broke. One person in your household can lose their job and your entire life and livelihood can change. That's how realistic you got to be in your mind when you black. You got to know that, hey, I can lose my job tomorrow and I'm just over broke. I can get sick and can't run my business anymore and now I'm broke. You have to know that everything that's given to you can be taken away. And I don't even that's my problem with social media right there. And that's why I'm so glad I'm not on it right now. Why even repost something like that? If you're such a high-paid corporate thriving person, why even post something so judgmental and kicking people like that? Why are you even trying to stir a pot like that? And then you talking about your brother, so is the post directed at your brother? If so, that's lame too. You should have just sent the post personally to your brother. People can say, why are you struggling, kid or no kid, if you claim you got a fiance, you got a man? Because newsflash, sweetie, anybody can struggle. Anybody can go through. Anybody's job can be taken away. Anybody can get a random sickness and our entire life change. That is the reality of life. We do not know what tomorrow may bring. And you better get it in your mind that anything can happen to you, and don't get so high and mighty with your little success that you think America is giving to you, because it's nothing to them. Like, your little corporate job or position is nothing compared to what they paying their people and the opportunities they giving their people. And if they feel like it, they'll take it from you at any moment. If they feel like you're getting too big headed, they might just take it from you. But yeah, that was just a reoccurring theme I was seeing this week. That while there are, like I said, there are some lazy people that can do more. The whole theme is that the system is not designed for us. And a lot of us aren't lazy. Some of us are lost and we just lack resources. Like, we don't have our cousin or uncle and, our dad or our mom who's just this multi-billionaire or multi-millionaire that could call up their friend and, hey, get her on TV. She wants to be an actress. And, a lot of us, even some of your rich celebrity kids, y'all be like, why they not doing this by now? Why they ain't doing that by now? Because they still black at the end of the day. Them people ain't just giving them roles. They got to go and audition too. They may have better resources than somebody like that don't have people in the industry, that don't have access to just get them an agent. So they might get stuff like an agent and this and that. But they ain't just finna cast them as no Disney princess. You better be 20 times better than your counterpart if you think you finna get like on their biggest show. If you finna be on their biggest film, making big time money, becoming a big time star. Them people do not mess with us. And when y'all get y'all head wrapped around that they don't care nothing about who you think you are, as long as you black, you're nobody to them. When you understand that, you'll understand life. And I give black Americans credit for that all the time. Like, we are the one black group of people across the diaspora that understand racism, I would say, the best, because we experienced slavery. Our ancestors experienced slavery in America, and nothing was worse than slavery in America. When you talk about that, they were eating us. They were making our skin out of sofas and leather. The things that we endured is the reason that we're so resilient and that we understand what goes on no matter where in the world we go. We understand. We got the common sense and the knowledge to know that they don't really mess with us even when they fake like they do. And a lot of people across the diaspora, they're lost in that sense because they really think these people are their allies. But we know better. We know they're not our allies. But we got to realize that we got to stop kicking our fellow brothers and sisters when they down, because at the end of the day, we cannot discredit the fact that that stuff messed us up mentally for generations to come, and they created a system to continuously hold us back. Oh, y'all, it's so much to unpack with a conversation like that. And if I had other people right here that wanted to talk about it for real, I could make this video even longer. But I'm gonna get into our verse of the day. I think we stopped on that Tuesday, January 27th. And that verse was, I tell you, whoever publicly acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man will also acknowledge before the angels of God. And that's Luke 12:8. And that's that scripture just basically telling us to make sure we acknowledge that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. And don't ever be afraid or ashamed to say that, because he will not deny us in front of the Father. And then Wednesday, for the Lord, your God, is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you victory. Deuteronomy 24, that was Wednesday, January 28th. And that's just basically saying how God fights all of our battles for us. I love that one too, because it's similar to the scripture and backs it up when it tells us basically, don't repay evil for evil, let God do the work for us. Because anytime I want to respond or react to someone doing something to me, and I know I can do people dirtier than they do me, I remember that vengeance is the Lord, and I'm just going to sit back and let God do what he do. And I tell my sister this all the time, my little sister, my youngest sister, and everybody. You ain't going to always see what God do to other people. Sometimes God do stuff to people and they suffer in silence. So don't think that God doing the thing for you or getting the job done for you looks like these people being publicly humiliated or whatever. Sometimes people are suffering for what they did to you and you don't even know. So don't worry about people suffering and don't care too much about that. Your job is to pray for the ability to forgive people and to hope to forget the situation and get over it. But don't worry about what people getting, because they gonna get theirs. And then yesterday, January 29, 2026, the Lord will indeed give what is good, and our land will yield its harvest. Psalm 85:12. Everything from the Lord is good. Everything, everything, everything. And then January 30th, 2025, today, Friday, the Lord upholds all who fall and lifts up all who are bowed down. And that is, like I said, Psalm 145:14. And that's just also a reminder that God is always with us and hard times don't last. Because guess what? The only way to go when you're down is up. But yeah, y'all, they're getting louder. So I'm going to wrap this up. And y'all know I'll be back because I'll be talking.